Neste podcast eu tive a honra de falar com um dos meus heróis, Simon Rhee. Mais conhecido pelo seu papel de Dae-Han, lutando contra o seu irmão Philip Rhee no filme Best of the Best. O Mestre Rhee é 7º Dan de faixa preta em Taekwondo e 4º Dan em Aikido. Tornou-se uma das caras mais emblemáticas no mundo dos duplos, ou dublês de cinema. Não só como dublê, mas também como coordenador de ação. Ganhou já 2 vezes o prémio Taurus para melhores cenas de ação em filmes. Hoje vamos falar sobre a sua filosofia de treino, historial e até dar dicas a principiantes. Este é um novo segmento do podcast com os meus heróis. Welcome to Portugal, Simon.
Obrigado. Hey, I know that word.
I can't believe that. Have you been to Portugal?
No, I would love to one day.
Yeah, you got to come meet us. Obviously, we have to work out, but we're not going to bother you too much with the working out parts. You're going to have some pastéis de nata and some good food here in Portugal. It's like a custard pastry that everybody loves when they come to Portugal, and I'm sure you're going to love it as well.
Love it.
Yeah, so obviously, like every martial artist in the world, I've seen Dae-Han. I've seen Tommy Lee. I've seen the best of the best, and it's stuck with me forever. I even bought a couple of books from Master Rhee Il Cho. I remember the complete guide to Master's jumping kick and stuff. So I've been a huge fan ever since I was a little kid. And it's too bad that there are not a lot of references or even podcasts or even bigger interviews in this segment with you guys. So first and foremost, you're being the martial arts instructor for Cobra Kai 3. Am I right?
I've been training them for the series. So I trained them 2 weeks for this because they're shooting season 3 right now.
Yeah.
So right before season 3 started, the producers asked me, and then the stunt coordinator asked me to train these actors. So I trained them for 2 weeks. And then also on season 2, right before they started, I trained them to get them in shape and get them fluid with their martial art movements.
Okay. And how has that been going? Who's giving you the hardest time so far?
Not really anybody. All the actors have been so cool to work with. And, Martin Cove, the guy who's Sensei, the instructor,
Grease.
the bad guy. Yeah. And I was kind of intimidated by him because he was so mean in the movies, but he turned out to be such a nice person. And then he enrolled his daughter at my studio. So yeah, it's been a really pleasure teaching all those actors.
Yeah, I saw that video on your Instagram page. He really loved your teaching as far as letting his daughter know that would be a great thing for her as well.
Yes.
That's great. So now we're looking at your gym, right? Your dojo.
That's right. That's my dojo right there.
So nowadays, how do you manage the work between the students you have and the classes you teach and the movies?
So I've been in the same location for almost 40 years. And I have assistant instructors, chief instructors that's been with me about 37 years.
Wow.
So if I need to leave, I have assistant instructors that could, step in and teach for me. And also I have my wife who will, take care of the studio for me so that everything runs smoothly. And it's been working fine.
Yeah, for our audience, I was joking with Grandmaster Simon that because we were having troubles with the connection, he was trying with a cell phone, and then only when his wife came, she was kind enough to let us use her laptop, and that's why we can do this now. So we have to love our wives, right? That's why they always save us.
Yep, absolutely.
So
And I tell I tell everybody, even though I'm 7th-degree black belt,
yeah.
when I go home, my wife is a black belt.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we always have to listen to them most and foremost. I saw this interview. It was fascinating with your brother, Philip Rhee, who obviously played Tommy Lee in the movie Best of the Best. And he was saying you guys had a really tough upbringing. So you started training martial arts, Hapkido, with your father. Am I right?
No, that's not right. My father opened up a gym in San Francisco, and our instructor was a Hapkido instructor. So we learned Hapkido under Master Murang Choi was my instructor and my brother's instructor. And we studied with him for a few years. And then after that, we moved to Los Angeles, and then we started training under Master Jun Chong. But we were already a black belt at that time. We got our black belt from Korea when we were a little kid.
So how old were you guys when you started working out and practicing martial arts?
10 years old.
10 years old. And Philip said something in that interview, and I would like to give a shout out because that was a really great podcast. Drum Technique, that's the name of the podcast. So I really enjoyed listening to your story and your background, because you guys had a little tough time because there was a lot of criminality or a lot of criminal activity amongst your peers, right? And a lot of kids would want you to join their gangs. Am I right about this?
That's correct. There was, when we were growing up in San Francisco, my brother grew up with like Filipinos. I grew up with, I hung around with a lot of Koreans, and we always we didn't consider ourselves as gangs, but if you have 7, 8, 9, 10 friends always together, other people would look at you as a gang. And we would go to parties and stuff, and they would think that, oh, there goes a Korean gang. And if my brother comes, they would go, oh, there goes a Filipino gang.
Okay. Oh. Okay, we had a little problem, and the batteries went away, so we're back. Simon, as you were saying, sorry for the inconvenience. As you were saying, so you were in gangs, and people thought you were, oh, this is the Filipino gang, this is the Korean gang. Yes.
Right. But we didn't consider ourselves as a gang, but I guess because we hung around with a bunch of friends, people thought that we were a gang. And we would go to a party, and we would run into a Chinese gang.
Yeah.
They wanted to always fight us, and sometimes they would have guns and stuff, and it wasn't a very safe time. That's why as soon as I finished my high school, my parents moved us to Los Angeles.
Oh, because they were afraid that you guys would get in trouble.
That's correct. Or get killed, one or the other.
Yeah, well, that's your brother says something also about the martial arts being the main savior. Were the martial arts the way that you guys got out of trouble, if not for your parents taking you away to Los Angeles?
I think so, because it gave us self-confidence, knowing that we could protect ourselves. We always we were always taught never to use martial arts in an unfair way. I mean, my instructor and Philip, our instructor really drilled that into us. Always use martial arts to save the weaker person than you. Use the martial arts for your country. use the martial arts for your family. So we never did use martial arts for our advantage, but for self-defense, we did use that to help us.
So, being a teacher for many years and working with a lot of people, would you say that maybe working with teenagers or kids would be your passion?
It doesn't matter whether it's kids or teenagers, man or woman. I teach kids from 4 years old to I have an older student who's 89 years old, and I love teaching people. I love people, and I love every personality that people have. So, and I love interacting with them and teaching them, and I think they feel that from me. So I think that's why I've been at the same location for 40 years now.
Yeah, one of the main things in our podcast, in our YouTube channel, we really love the performance aspect and what people, when they see these kinds of interviews and podcasts, what they can get out of this. And I've noticed, obviously, like we all did, that a lot of the youngsters nowadays, they have it all by a touch of a click. And it's very difficult to become disciplined or old school or old fashioned in that sense. What kind of problems does a master encounter when he tries to instill discipline and the courage and that self-confidence in the youngsters?
First of all, they have to trust you. And that's the one thing that I do with all my students. And I earn their trust, and I let them know that I teach from my heart. So when you are pure and you teach from your heart, understand that, that I'm not teaching because you're paying me. I'm teaching you from my love and my love of teaching. And once they realize that, they're willing to go a further distance with you. And that's the reason why when I punish my students, I don't punish them like my instructor used to punish me with sticks and hitting me in the butt, but I would give them a little, like a flick to their head, and to get their attention. And parents do not get angry with that, because in United States, you're not supposed to touch or punish anybody, the kids especially. But because they understand that I love them, it's okay. So I think if you're an instructor, first thing you need to do is earn their trust. They know that you love them.
Oh yes, that's an interesting point you're taking, because with this wave of political correctness, and whenever anybody tries to discipline a kid, even the parents come, you don't beat up my kid, you can't do that, you can't do anything, you can. If you flick a kid, it's like, oh, that parent is hitting the kid. So it's tough nowadays, because it's like they don't develop their own sense of discipline and the way they can cope with negativity. It's like all they have is like they never had to work hard to get it. So speaking of working hard to get something, I'm sure you and your brother were obviously great martial artists when you were young. But how did this movie business start with you?
Back in 1975, Master Jun Chong movie, and we were visiting our aunt in Los Angeles, and we just happened to give Master Jun Chong a call a day before.
Yeah.
And then Master Jun Chong said, Simon, Philip, I'm shooting a movie, so come to Long Beach Junkyard, and we will be shooting a fight scene. So we said, yes, sir. And we went to Long Beach Junkyard, and we did our little fight scene. And we did not get paid. Or they gave us a meal from McDonald's.
Oh.
But we didn't complain, because it was fascinating for us. And what was even more fascinating was 1 year later, that movie played in Hollywood Boulevard, in one of those Hollywood movie theaters. And that's the first time we saw ourselves on a big screen throwing all these kicks and punches.
Hold it!
that's when we were hooked. We were like, oh, I want to do this. And it took me a long time to be able to join the Actors Union, Screen Actors Guild. It took me 11 years to join the union so I could start acting in the movie business.
Yes, because you got to have a lot of work as what are the rules for getting into the Screen Actors Guild?
You have to have 3 vouchers to do a extra or background work, or you have to receive a part in a movie where you either speak or you do a stunt. And so 1975 was the first time I did a movie, and then in 1986 I was able to get a part in a movie where I did a fighting scene with my brother, and that's how I got into the union.
I got to know this. Which
movie?
Yes.
Silent Assassins.
Silent Bastards was the one from 1986?
Silent Assassin is the one from 1986.
And which one? Which one was the one from 1975?
Bruce Lee Fight Back from the Grave.
Oh, okay. So it was in those a couple of years, obviously, after Bruce Lee died. He died in 1973. So it was all it was in that time in which they were trying to still keep with the legend, right? Keep with the life of Bruce Lee and still instill in the hearts of the people, of the fans, right?
Right. Everything was Bruce Lee, just trying to use that name. And Bruce Lee Fight Back from the Grave was actually a Korean director who came to the United States to make this movie. So it's pretty bad. It's pretty low budget movie, but Master Jin Chong was the lead actor, and he's good in that.
Oh, I gotta watch that one. I haven't watched it, but I've watched a lot of Bruce Lee, Bruce Lowe, Bruce Leung,
Exactly.
and I know, yeah, that those 3 to 4 years were kind of tough. Obviously. So how does Best of the Best happen? I still cry. I still cry. You still make a grown man cry with that movie every time I see it. But I'm sure you get this every day, right? I'm not the first one to say this.
I do. Best of the Best came. I went to compete in Korea in a Korean Olympics. And this is where all the Koreans that live outside of Korea, they come to Korea to compete in a Olympic event. And I competed, and I saw all this really, really awesome sportsmanship in that tournament. And it's too long for me to talk about it with you right now. I wish I could. I'm going to make the story short. And then a few years after that, my brother went to compete in Korean Olympics, and he saw something and he felt something. So he came back, and we both sat down and we started talking. And this is the time when all the martial art movies were coming out with just all kinds of violence, drugs, sex, blood, gratuity, violence. Me and my brother were talking about, this is not what true martial art is all about. We want to present a true martial arts. So we start talking about what we experienced in the tournament, and we start talking about how we trained for the tournament. And that's how the Best of the Best came about. And we wanted to show the true sportsmanship instead of just for the sake of fighting and having revenge and having drugs. As you notice, we didn't have any of that stuff in our movie.
Yes, of course, it's all motivation. And one thing that puzzles me sometimes is that there's often a difference between actors and martial artists. And obviously, both of you were very well as actors and as martial artists. But some of the other actors, for a martial artist, you can tell that some of the other actors did not have as much of a background in martial arts. But still, it worked perfectly.
Right.
Like you could say, for example, with Ralph Macchio for Karate Kid, I mean, there's a reason why it stood the test of time, even though he obviously wasn't a karate expert. We can say the same thing with Mark Dacascos. He was not a capoeira expert. He is a great martial artist, but still, it was more maybe the acting or maybe the chameleonic figure that can really get into that character. So how do we cast for a movie like that? Were you a part of the casting as well? Did you get to choose at all the people who were intervenients in that movie?
No, I was not involved with casting. My brother, because my brother was like part of the producing team. So they hired a casting director and they brought in all these actors. But we did definitely have Eric Roberts, because our producer was a good friend with Eric Roberts, and James Earl Jones. So those two actors were the name actors that we had to have for our film. And then like Chris Penn came in, and Chris Penn also knew martial arts, and he wasn't great at it, but he was, absolutely a martial artist. And then we had two other actors, like the guy Sonny
and Virgil.
Virgil, those two guys, they were not martial artists, so we used a stunt double for those two guys. And on a tournament, some of the stuff, the stiffness of real actors, and if you see something smooth from the behind, those are the stunt doubles.
Okay. Are there any cool stories that you can share with us from the turning of the movie, from the movie?
From Best of the Best?
Some stuff from behind the scenes that nobody knows.
Okay. In Best of the Best, you see me in the beginning of the fight, you see me do a Superman punch.
Yeah, exactly.
Dae-Han opens up quickly with a right to Tommy Lee's head.
I think from there, everyone else started using the Superman punch. So I wasn't aware of it until somebody told me, "Hey, Simon, you're the one that started the Superman punch now." So I was like, "Oh, that's cool to know." And another thing is that when I was underneath the waterfall, that was winter, and it was so cold. When I came out of there, just mentally and physically, it broke me. And I've never had that happen to me before, where I came out of that waterfall and I just started trembling and I couldn't stop and I started crying. And I was just, I've never been in that state of mind. And that's when my brother came over and gave me his jacket, he gave me a hug, and really, really bonded with my brother. Another time is like, there's a segment where Master Hito Cho uses a baseball bat and he hits me in the shin bone, and then the baseball bat breaks in half. On one of the take, the broken baseball bat came and hit me straight in my private, and I went down in pain. So of course we didn't use that footage.
Oh no! Does anybody have that footage? I want that footage.
So do I. I don't think. I mean, we saw it on the dailies, but I don't think we have that anymore.
Oh, it's too bad, because we always are very prepared. I can say this as a stuntman as well, even though I'm on a different level, obviously. But we are always ready for everything. And then Murphy's Law. Why didn't you bring that cup, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One time, my stunt coordinator was showing this scene to a very famous actress here in Portugal, and he said, "Okay, then you will knee him in the groin." And she said, we were just speaking about what we were doing, but she went like this, pow, and I was like, "Oh." And he said something like, it's okay. Bruno here has a cup, right, bro? And I was like, yes, of course I have a cup. Don't worry, I have a cup. You know what? She was so beautiful that I didn't really care. It's coming from her. It was a compliment.
Okay.
So, did you guys have that kind of hard training? What type of crazy stuff in training did you do when you were youngsters? Like, is any of the things portrayed in the movie, like those baseball bats and the waterfall and stuff like that, or the trees? Everybody remembers the slow motion in the trees. Did you guys do any of that stuff, like old school, when you were training?
Not to that effect. Those were all for the movies. But I mean, I remember as a kid, Philip and I, we had to clean our Taekwondo studio in Korea. And our studio, we had a roof and beams and a roof, but no windows. So when it snowed, all the snow would come inside the studio. And so Philip and I, we would have to studio, we have to get down on our hands and knees and get this, big old rags, and we have to mop the whole floor before class started. And I remember doing that. And then when we became a teenager, we started seeing all these ninja movies. And one day when Master Jun Chong wasn't at the studio and the studio was closed, we said, let's turn off all the lights and let's spar. See, we could feel each other's kicks and punches. Needless to say, that didn't go very well. we did some, silly things like that.
But who won?
Who knows? It was so dark.
Maybe the furniture won. Shit.
Yeah.
So from this whole experience came a lot of other stuff. I'm remembering Inception and The Dark Knight. So how was it to grow into that business and being more and more of one of the most familiar faces and the fight coordinator and the stunt and doing the stunts for a lot of those major movies? How did it happen from there?
So when we did Best of the Best, we needed a professional stunt person to go through the glass, land on a pinball machine, break the table. So we hired all these professional stunt people to do that. And after the movie was done, when they needed an Asian person who knew how to do martial arts, they start calling me. And at that time, I didn't know too much about stunts. I mean, I knew about Taekwondo and I knew how to fight, but I didn't know all the things that goes behind the stunts. So then one time they called me, and this is how it all started. It was a movie called Double Impact.
Oh, with Van Damme, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when they called me, I thought they called me to fight with Van Damme. So I go to the movie set. And then they said, Simon, you are going to get shot and you're going to hit this steel rail on your back and then you're going to go fall on your stomach. I said, okay. So we were rehearsing, hit my back on a steel and it hurt. So then one of the older gentlemen goes, Simon, where's your back pad? I said, what do you mean back pad? What's that? That's how innocent I was. So then right away they start letting me borrow all these stunt pads. I said, oh, if you're a stuntman, you need this stuff. So next day I went out and bought all the stunt equipment that I needed. And then from there, I went to do Universal Soldiers. And that's when I got to really work with Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren and Ralph Mueller. That's why I recommended Ralph Mueller to Philip on Best of the Best too, if you remember.
Yeah.
So I started, on our days off, I started working out with Jean-Claude and we started sparring and stuff. And Jean-Claude really liked the way I kicked and he enrolled his kids to my studio. So I was teaching his kids private lessons for a while. And then just doing movies here and there, all these other stunt people start noticing me. and then they start calling me for bigger parts and bigger movies, and that's how it all started.
Oh,
Because the best of the
incredible.
best.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
best of the best just sometimes all you need is an opening, right? But what a great opening that was. Well, I always felt like, if we can get into some sort of advice for young stuntmen as well, some people, people who want to be stuntmen, I always believe that the bigger or the more ample the style, for example, like Taekwondo, Aikido, Wushu, for example, I always feel like they're the ones who give you the most or the biggest mobility and versatility in order to soothe or suit the movies. Would you feel that being able to kick was one of the best things ever for you guys?
absolutely. The big movement, martial arts that really helped. But now, like Taekwondo is definitely one of them. Wushu is definitely one of them. But now, like judo, if you notice John Wick, it's a lot of judo movements.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a big movement where you could see the whole body falling and hitting the ground. And, that's getting really popular. For right before that, like Tony Jaa brought the Muay Thai, and then Iko brought Silat from Indonesia.
Yeah.
So for a person that wants to become a stunt person, study as much as you can. I mean, I'm still taking lessons from Filipino style, Indonesian style. I'm still learning every day as I can, because you need to know all that stuff.
Yeah, and the more weapons or tools you have in the toolbox, the better. But would you say that someone, when they start to practice martial arts, would it be better for them to get a foundation first in a single martial art in order not to have too many stuff on their brains and their bodies?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Start with one style and get a block from that stuff first, and then venture out to a different style.
Yeah, because I see a lot of the new movies like the Born Identities and stuff like that. They have a little bit of Krav Maga, a little bit of judo, a little bit of grappling nowadays, because we know because of MMA and stuff, a lot of the people are turning on to fights on the ground and stuff. So I believe that the more well-rounded someone is, the better. Simon, it's been a great pleasure. I just want to know if you have any sort of advice for youngsters that are, in this new day and age. They have a lot of stuff ready at the click, just like we said before. Would you have any advice for youngsters who want to become great at something they do, especially martial arts in the movie business?
Yes, I get this phone call, I get this email almost every day.
Yeah.
If you want to become a successful stunt person, you have to have a great demo reel. So make 1 minute demo reel of yourself and put it out on YouTube. Because you call me and say, hey, I'm so and so, I'm really great at this and I'm really great at that. I don't know you, but if I could go to YouTube and take a look at you, and if you are really good at what you are, then I have a chance to hire you. So make sure you put, a demo reel of yourself and your contact information. I think that's really important. And we just talked about Born Identity with you.
Yeah.
Just finished this series called Treadstone, and it's about Born Identity organization that they made a TV series, and it's going to be airing very soon. So if you get a chance, go see Treadstone on internet. They should have trailers out right now, and I had a really cool fight scene in that one. And then last year we did a movie called Boss Level with Mel Gibson, Frank Grillo, and has some really cool fight scenes in that, if you could see that. And this year I just finished a movie with Ruby Rose called The Doorman, and we shot this movie in Romania for about 3 months, and has a lot of great action scenes in that movie. So look forward to that, please.
Oh, nice, nice. Thank you so much, Simon. So, and what about you're I'm sure you're doing a lot of stuff as well for your social networks. I mean the Instagrams and the Facebooks and whatnots. So I would tell everybody to go follow Simon Rhee as well in the Instagram. And is there anything else that you would like to say?
I would like to come and meet you one day in your country. I love
Yeah.
traveling. Me and my wife, we travel all the time. So hope to meet you one day in your country. Okay?
I would love that. I would love that. Master Simon, thank you so much for your time. I won't bother you anymore, and have a good one, okay? Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.